So I use the same 4 colors for all of the projects I'm going to show you today and tomorrow, just to make it a little simpler. So I used coral, I used sunshine yellow, I used limeade, and I used turquoise. Now, just a little heads up, I am giving away tomorrow, one of the door prizes is going to be all 4 of these alcohol inks. So you do have a chance to win these 4 alcohol ink colors tomorrow in one of the door prizes, and now my hand is covered in coral, oopsies. All right, so I wanted to sort of showcase just all the different kinds of techniques you can use to get all different backgrounds. So again, this is the same 4 colors, but so different, all the different backgrounds that you can get, and the intensity and color, and the textures. So that's just simple. I'm just going to show a couple different ways in which you can apply the alcohol inks that will give you different types of looks to create different backgrounds. Oh, and this as well. And then from there, I'll take a few of these backgrounds and show you how you can then add, you know, another layer of texture with the isopropyl alcohol. So this is stamping with bubble wrap. This one is spraying it with isopropyl alcohol and then laying saran wrap on top and like pinching it up to give that like crackled kind of texture. This one is with just, I took the nozzle out of the mini mister and splattered the isopropyl alcohol. I don't even know if I pronounced that word right, and I'm going to say it probably 49 times tonight, so I really hope I'm not saying it wrong every single time. This one, I did drops of it with the pipette. And then these 2 are both, I sort of propped my piece of paper up, or my Yupo paper up, and sprayed. One, I just sprayed it and then let it drip and dry on its own. And one, I used the heat gun to sort of stop the process before it like drug all the color out of the background. So it's pretty crazy the difference that using the heat tool can make on the same exact technique and process. And then this one's just like a really small little splatter of the isopropyl with the mini mister in the corner. So all really fun little textures. Now these would be great to then turn, oh, and one more. This one was the same thing, just splattered. You might not even be able to see it, that it's such small little splatters, but there is little speckles in that texture just from misting, very gently misting with the isopropyl alcohol out of a mini mister bottle. It's too bad that it's not in real life because these are so pretty in real life. I don't know how well it translates over the camera, but regardless, these are all so fun. Would make simple backgrounds to a card. You just add a nice black stamped image and a sentiment. They also are great lots of times. Maybe your background didn't work out exactly how you wanted it to, but it's got really cool textures and patterns and colors. You can use these to make die cuts. Like they're great, great, great for using in your big shot or your cameo and making die cuts. So tons of options for these once you've created them, because really, like, I know for me, I just make them because I enjoy making them, but it is nice to have a function for them afterwards. So that is what I would suggest, cards or for die cutting. So I am going to take these backgrounds that were just the backgrounds. I've got some blank ones here. So first what I'm going to do is just recreate all of these backgrounds really quickly and just sort of show you how I made each of these. And then I'll show you a couple of different uses for the isopropyl alcohol. So again, coral, can't read this one, sunshine yellow, limeade, and turquoise. So for most of them, I'm using the Tim Holtz blending handle and a piece of felt. I like the little round ones, but
lost your.
Have I been muted this whole time?
Up until you put aside your cards, Chantel.
Huh.
We heard you, Chantel. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm like, did nobody tell me this whole time? I've been talking for 5 minutes and nobody said anything that I wasn't talking. Okay, well, it's okay. I have it all recorded on YouTube anyways. Like, my phone is recording this also. But basically, I'm just going to show you how I made all of these backgrounds, and then I'm going to show you how the isopropyl alcohol interacts with those backgrounds to create some fun techniques and textures. So, I like the little blending handle and a piece of felt. I like the little round one. The square one or the rectangle one works as well. I just like the size of this one and the ease of it. So for the first one, I will do this little rainbow background. If you've been to all my crops, you've seen me make this one before, but it's a personal favorite of mine. I'm a sucker for a rainbow. So I just take my colors, and this wouldn't have to be a rainbow. I mean, you could put stripes of any color you want, but you can see on my piece of felt that I'm just running a line of each color down the felt. So I started with the coral. Next I'm doing sunshine yellow, then limeade, and then turquoise. Got some on my paper, so I'm gonna flip that. Okay, so yeah, it's just a line of each of the colors, whatever colors you decide to use, then just make sure you're holding it the right direction. So for me, I've got my red at the top, and I'm just gonna start at one edge of my paper, almost off the paper even, and just like slide it across. Then I'm gonna go down a little bit, slide it across. Just a nice smooth glide across your U-Bowl paper. And then I go like, so it's pretty good already. Like that's pretty good, but I like the colors to blend into one another a little bit more than that. I don't know if you can see the difference, but like there's more intermixed colors like in the first example I showed you. So I go over it a couple of times, and you're never going to get it exactly in the same spot every time you cross. So that just sort of gets the colors mixing with one another just a tiny little bit. I do try to stay on the same path. Like it's not like I'm really trying to mix them up too much, but I just want them to be a little bit more streaky, a little bit more grainy. So I go over it a couple of times, and then boom, just like that, I have a super fun rainbow or whatever color pattern you want background. Takes seconds, doesn't use up a lot of your alcohol ink, and it's super bright, super fun background. Then I can take that same felt pad, and it probably still has enough ink on it, and I'm just gonna start dabbing. Keep on going until I'm happy with the coverage. So if I was to stop, like everything is completely covered. There's no more white space left on this page, but it's quite, the dots, I don't know if that's, like the marbling is quite big still compared to, you know, this where all those little speckles are so tight and tiny on one another, because this pad was still so saturated. So I could let this dry and let this dry a little bit and then keep going, but I'll make just another background. So I'm going to leave this one the way that it is, and hopefully I've got enough alcohol ink off of my felt pad now that I can get a slightly more mottled look like this on this one. Whew, I put a lot of ink on there. But yeah, this is, I can already tell the ink, like, I don't think you'll be able to see it through the camera, but when I push it down, like I watch it spread, and it's not spreading as quickly and as broadly as the first application did. So this will definitely be more the look that I was going for. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Okay, so this is one of my favorite techniques too. I really like the look of this. Like, to me, it looks like a dinosaur egg. I don't know why, I just think of dinosaur eggs when I do these. So super fun texture. I love, love, love that background. Again, super easy. I have not reapplied alcohol ink onto this, and I've already made 3 beautiful backgrounds, which can be used to die cut, card bases, cut apart and use as a pattern paper, whatever you want. So then I can do We'll see if I have enough left for this one. This one was the same thing. I used all the same colors, and I just kind of like, rather than dab and lift, I just sort of dab and twist. Like just sort of rub a little bit. Twist, 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 twist. It's got like, actually I think I might leave like white space on this. I don't know how I just pulled this off, but these almost look like little roses. That was an accident. It doesn't really translate that well on there, but they look really cute, like almost like little roses, but I'm gonna keep going. Cover the whole surface. But this one just has a little more motion in it because I'm twisting as I ink instead of just dabbing. So you get that like, that sort of flow in the application and in the background. It translates very nicely into the look of the finished piece. Much more movement in it and much more like, yeah, movement is really the right word, so I don't need a second word. All right, so that is that one. Now I'm going to take a fresh felt pad for the final one because this one, I don't want the colors all at the same time. So this is this rainbow one where I started with one color and worked my way. If you look closely, they are intermixed because I'm not going to, again, I like sort of a little bit of the colors intermixing. I like sort of a more grungy, distressed kind of look. So I'm not going to replace the felt in between colors. So a little bit of the pink will be left on it when I move to the orange, when I move to the green and to the blue. But for this one, I will start with my coral. And this will only work, like if you were using different colors than rainbow colors, I would suggest starting with your lighter colors and then moving to your darker colors if you're not going to switch your felt. Because if you start with your darker one and then think that you're going to be able to move to the next one and it's not going to completely overpower it, you're going to lose that lighter color. So it only works if you're starting sort of lighter and working darker. Otherwise you can still do this background. You just will want to switch your felt out in between colors. All right, so I'm going to start with coral. I just put a few drops on it there. And I'm going to just like I did before with the rainbow, it's only pink. So get a nice good cover of that. And then I don't know why with the first color I apply it on my felt, then with the second, third, and fourth color I just do a strip of alcohol ink right on the card and then just drag it until I'm happy with what I've got. Then I'm going to do a little drip of the next color. Now the green is sort of not a very dominant color, so I have to add a little bit more so that the orange doesn't overpower it too much. And then my blue, which is a very dominant color. All right, so there is another option for a background. And then the next ones, you'll notice, like if I was to hold up all those backgrounds that I had made originally all at the same time, there's a very clear difference from this backgrounds versus these backgrounds. So these ones have all been applied with the felt and the handle, and I've sort of spread out the ink. So the ink is very saturated, but I've taken it and spread it across the Yupo paper. These ones, I'm applying the alcohol ink directly onto the Yupo paper, and so the color stays very rich, very saturated, and very deep. So like very different look to the ones that have been applied with the felt and the foam, with the felt and the handle. All right, so let's do this one first because these two are kind of same but different. So this one, I just took a piece of Yupo paper, and all that I do is just start dropping drops of alcohol ink, and it's so fun to watch. Maybe after this color, I'll move it a little closer so you can watch. The ink just like, it just spreads and spreads and spreads. You think it's done, and then the color just keeps on spreading. It blows my mind actually how far this ink will travel across a sheet of paper. So I again, I'm just kind of sticking to that rainbow look. So I'm gonna go red, yellow, green, blue, but I'm just gonna drop all my drops, 5 or 6 of each color along a line. And you don't really have a lot of control over what's going to happen to these. So you just have to accept that before you get started, because it's not the type of ink that you can really finesse with. So once I have done that, I just sort of let them seep and seep and seep. You can pick them up too and roll them around, or use your heat gun to blow them around, which is what I did with these backgrounds, where you drop and then you take control. I mean, you don't have control, but you do get to play around with it a little bit and push the ink where you want it. But maybe let's do that. So I'm gonna try and lift it up and move it closer to the camera here. So you'll see when I turn the heat gun on, you'll see like the saturated ink just sort of moving around on the paper. And then the fun thing about heat setting it, and what you'll see here, so with this one, I had covered all the backgrounds, and then where you can see, I'll try to get the gloss away, like these circles that showed up, that was me. So I made the background, I like covered the whole thing in alcohol ink. Then once it dried, I took the colors and added extra drops, and they sort of leave a ring or an edge where you drop. If you've let the first layer dry, then it builds like this second layer. It's very cool. So now that I've heat set these, if I hadn't heat set it, it would just mix in with, but now that this one has set, the next one that I drop will sort of, it will leave those marks. You'll be able to see that it's an added on element. I'll hold it up in a minute and show you what I mean, because I'm not really finding the right words in my brain to properly describe what I'm trying to say. So can you see like all those dark rings? Is where I've added the second layer of alcohol ink on all of those backgrounds. Okay, so you have that option. And then with these two, it was the same kind of concept as this, where it's the same technique, only one I heat set and one I did not. So both of these Yupo papers, I held up like this, and then put drops of alcohol ink along the top and let them drip. This one, as they dripped, I heat set them so that they dried before they could spread. This one, I just let them sort of drop and spread at the same time, so it gave sort of a more full coverage, whereas this one, you got those little strands because I heated them, I set the ink before they had time to spread. This one I don't think I'll be able to showcase on the screen how I did, because it took all my hands and coordination to just be able to do it when I wasn't trying to also film it. But I just took the alcohol ink bottle. Well, you know what, I'll try one. I'm not going to do the heat set one because I just don't think I can manage that right this second, but I'll show you what I mean. So I held the piece of paper up like this, and then I just took the alcohol ink bottle and dripped some down. Then I did the same thing with the next color. Next color. And you can see like how quickly it spreads. But if I had been heating it while I dripped, then it would have dried before it had time to seep across the whole surface. which is how I got this finish instead of this kind of finish. Both are beautiful, but it's just nice to know what you're gonna get based on what you do. All right, where's my... So once you've got your first base down, the nice thing about all of the Tim Holtz products is they all have so much potential to just keep building and building and layering and layering. So once you have a base layer, it's really fun to add another element of texture and design. So for these ones, we're going to do that with some isopropyl alcohol. So I'm going to just pick some of my backgrounds here. And first I will show you, we'll do the spray and drip. So I have two different sort of rainbow stripe ones. I'll use those two to show the difference between spray and drip, and just let it keep on dripping, and spray and drip with the heat set that sort of stops the process before it has time to just completely take over the whole project. So first, I will take this one and I'm just gonna spray. I put some isopropyl alcohol inside of a mini mister. That's it. I just took it straight out of the bottle, poured it into the mini mister, and that's where we're at here. So I'm just gonna take it and spray it left to right, side to side, not just like a glob of it. I'm gonna go from side to side as I spray and just let it slide down my project. Now I'll just set it off to the side. I don't think you're gonna be able to see it, but just trust me that I'm not doing anything to it. I'm just gonna let it drip dry. Then I will do another one where I heat set it after I spray it to stop that process from carrying out fully. I'm gonna try my very best to manage this with an audience. Oh my gosh, could I be more awkward? Okay. So you can see that like the drips just sort of start to drag the color down, but then you heat set it and stop that process before it just like carries it all the way down. And I'm seeing here that on both of these, I didn't spray, like I got spray up here, but I didn't get any spray down here. So if like the project was that big, that would be cool, because the same thing happened with my other one. But you'll be able to still see the difference between the two. So had I sprayed down there, that it could have kept dragging. So I'll show you the examples before when I actually had the room to do it proper. So that's the difference between spray and leave and spray and heat set with the alcohol. And then maybe my personal favorite is the drops. I love splattering and dropping with sprays, and to me this is almost even cooler because rather than adding color, it's taking away, which I think is very beautiful. So very simple, straightforward concept. I'm sure you've done it a million times with your dilution sprays or Tattered Angel sprays or whatever sprays you have, but instead of with an ink spray, you're doing it with alcohol, which reacts with the alcohol ink and sort of removes the color and pushes it out to the outskirts of the little pool of alcohol. So you have a pipette or you have a spray bottle. The pipette, I've just poured some alcohol into a little palette here. Then I'll suck a little bit of it up in my pipette. And I'm just gonna drop it onto my project. Super random spots, some big, some little. And just let that soak for a minute. And then I'm going to splatter. That's maybe not the best background for a splatter. I'll splatter on this. I'm just unscrewing the lid of the mini mister bottle and flicking the alcohol that's on the spray nozzle down onto my project. And this one's cute because it gives you such tiny little dots. So you can see the difference between the big pipette drops and the little splatter drops. Again, both super cute, just totally different depending on the type of project you're working on and what kind of look you want. And then the spray one, I don't really have to demonstrate. It's just a little spray of isopropyl alcohol and left a little splatter. I will, however, show you the stamping with the bubble wrap, because that one I think is pretty cool. I only had at the store, we only had this bubble wrap that's like, the bubbles are gigantic. I don't even know why we have this bubble wrap. But the bubbles are huge. So I think that this would be really cute with, you know, the little bubble wrap bubbles, because you would get a lot, you'd be able to play a lot more with, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. This one kind of takes over the whole surface that I'm working on, but the concept is the same and it still gives you the same effect and idea. So I will take this background here, and then I just took a paintbrush and scooped a little bit of the alcohol out of my palette here and put it onto my non-stick craft mat. And then I took my bubble wrap, found a spot where the bubbles are still pretty bubbly, and just drug it around to pick up that isopropyl alcohol, and pretty self-explanatory. Then take it and stamp it onto your background. Push down for a little bit and let it sit for a minute. Now you can set this off to the side. So for this one, I won't be able to actually physically show you the whole process because I did this one and then I set it off to the side for like 3 hours to dry before I peeled this cello or the shrink wrap back off of it. And the same thing, you can do the same thing with this bubble wrap stamped image. You can then set it off to the side and let it dry. But this one that I did, it's still really cute, and I just did it instantly. I stamped, lifted, and got this, which I think is really pretty. I just heat set it so that the alcohol didn't seep, because any of this that you leave, like you saw the difference between the drips when you heat set it or leave it, it just seeps so quickly. So I'm just going to take this off and then heat set it before the alcohol has time to spread, and then you lose all that detail in those circles that you just took the time to put on your project. So I'm going to lift that up and I'm going to quickly heat set it. And there you go. So then you just have that really cute little added texture and element to your background. And you would do the same thing with this shrink wrap. You would take your background and you would just sort of lightly mist it with your mini mister, and then you would stick shrink wrap down on it and then let it sit for a few hours to dry. So that is how the alcohol interacts with alcohol inks. Tomorrow I will be demonstrating a little bit more along the lines of these backgrounds, working with the heat tool, as well as how you can gain a little bit more control and make, you know, like more like a picture. So this is like a rose that I created with alcohol inks and a heat tool, as well as a paintbrush and a pipette. And yeah, I'll maybe show a couple uses for that type of project with alcohol inks. So that will be tomorrow's alcohol ink demo at 4 o'clock. And this is the wrap up for this one. Does anybody have any questions about the alcohol ink or the isopropyl